In a bar peering out at the Eiffel Tower and drinking a glass of wine with my parents, I felt the nervous tension of anticipation. Tomorrow I was meeting my host family. My parents were leaving and I was going to be alone, living in the suburbs of Paris. It made my heart beat. I figured I knew enough of the language after 6 years that communication wouldn't be too hard, but did I know enough about the culture? Would living in a stranger's home be uncomfortable or awkward? Immediately I realized that I did not know enough about the culture. I wasn't acquainted with kissing strangers' cheeks or living without air conditioning. I didn't realize how large the meals would be, especially lunch, usually a home-cooked meal with melon as an appetizer, followed by a protein and grain, and finished off with a dessert of your choosing. Luckily, I adapted quickly and befriended my hosts. Although unfamiliar, living in a new home was not uncomfortable. However, to my surprise, the language was a barrier. Although my host family was able to communicate with me slowly in French, every other interaction was quick and hard to understand. After the obligatory kisses on the cheek and exchanges of enchanté, time after time I became an observer, unable to keep up to the vicious speed of the native speakers. Mealtime conversations were hard to follow and nearly impossible to take part in. I translated what I could and followed the rest through body language, a shift in position or a cocked head. These are universal signals. There were many times I would be with friends of the family who weren't told to speak slowly to me. Oftentimes, their quick-spoken inquiries would be repeated several times before I had a hazy understanding of the question. It was embarrassing. Even worse, my thick American accent made it too difficult for the listener to understand, and often my sentence had to be repeated by a native speaker to the rest of the group. I couldn't think of responses to follow up to questions, and more often than not, I spent the day in silence listening as others spoke. The most frustrating part was knowing how a word is said but not being able to say it without an accent because the muscles in my mouth weren't trained to make those noises. I felt like an outsider because of my accent and was upset by my inability to fix it. While I could understand what was happening around me enough to get by, I still craved conversation. I lived for those 10-minute phone calls home where I could talk to my heart's desire with family and friends. The moments when my host family tried to speak to me in English were, I admit it, such a relief. English became my guilty pleasure as I dove into the novels I had brought from home and listened to music on my phone. I was there to learn French. I wanted to improve, but hearing my native language after a long day of nonstop French was a comfort that I indulged in nightly. Relief after a full day of French immersion. In the end, I learned about the language and the culture, how to survive as an outsider, how to read body language. But more importantly, I learned to embrace what I don't know and how to adapt. It won't always be easy, but I know I can adjust, finding security in the face of uncertainty.